you that the guidelines are actually strict. How many of you will believe me? Not many, huh? How about now? Should I convince you? When one looks at a figure, such as the level of tuning fork, it typically takes a minute to realize that something is off. One may even confidently say that the fork has 3 arms, without realizing that it's an impossible figure, an optical illusion. The brain seems to be preset to quickly make sense of the nonsensical. When 2 contrasting pieces of information are lying right in front of our eyes, we stick with the piece of information that better fits with our experience, and we ignore the rest. It even seems that humans are configured for visual illusions, and we are deceived by them as soon as we gain sight. Surprisingly, people with dyslexia, a population that we consider disabled, are faster at identifying whether a figure is possible or impossible. As I college students with dyslexia, reading papers like these was awakening for me. Growing up, I was very artsy and imaginative, creative, and observant. And I was taught to see my talents as resources that I had available to compensate for my dyslexia. Dyslexia was supposed to be something to fight, a challenge in my path, a part of me that I needed to deal with, a monster. And it never occurred to me that my talents could actually be part of it. Reading papers like these taught me that dyslexia is not a part of me. It's a way of perceiving, thinking, behaving, feeling that has positives and negatives, like any other way of being. And that of being faster at identifying impossible figures is just an example of how our strengths can be associated with disabilities. Yet, this information is often considered trivial compared to the greater good of understanding and fixing the cause of the disorder. Indeed, most research on dyslexia has been focusing on unveiling the causal mechanisms or on developing remediation programs. Reading papers like these is what pushed me to pursue a career in dyslexia research and bring the perspective of somebody who experienced dyslexia firsthand. So I'm a scientist, and of course I want to do a small experiment with everybody. How many of you have heard about kintsugi? Okay, nice, a couple hands. Kintsugi is a form of art that originated in Japan that consists in fixing broken pottery with gold, because objects with a history are more precious. And now I want you to imagine you're a kintsugi master and somebody comes to your studio and brings this object and asks you to fix it, because every time they try to extract from it, it's a mess. And I want you to imagine what would you do. How many of you will fill the holes with gold? And how many of you will tell them that this object is not broken and it simply has another purpose? I think you're starting to see where I'm getting to. Our society sees disability as a hindrance, something undesirable, broken, and that needs fixing. It's in the name itself. Disability, literally not fitting. We measure people based on what they cannot meet our expectations on, such as reading fluently. No wonder that we observe lower rates, lower self-esteem among people with dyslexia. And some studies even go to show that lower self-esteem can explain the higher rates of anxiety and depression symptoms that we see in dyslexia. And some of us grow up striving to compensate for the lackings. I'm getting a PhD, so I think we can safely say I'm one of these overcompensating individuals. But in many ways, I was lucky. And I not met the people in my path that made me feel capable, I would not be here today. And unfortunately, as it often happens when it's a matter of luck, or even better, let's say, privilege, many of us struggle under all the judgment that we receive and drop out of school. In the United States, for example, it's been estimated that only 41% of young adults with dyslexia graduate college, with an 18% dropout rate in high school alone. data is especially disheartening if we consider that in this country, educational attainment confers a larger economical and employment power, with consequences on life quality and life expectancy. But by marginalizing people with dyslexia, we're not just preventing them to seize opportunity. We as a society are missing out on the valuable contribution that they can bring. It turns out that some of the strengths that have been associated with dyslexia can translate in valuable skills for certain professions, such as astrophysics and programming. For example, it seems that people are faster at identifying a possible or impossible figure because their brain is set so that they focus more on the periphery of the visual field rather than the center, making them faster at getting the gist of the scene. And if you can imagine an astrophysicist looking at a blurry image of the universe trying to spot a black hole, I think you can see how that can be advantageous. So all around the world, over the last century, we've been witnessing a slow shift in the way we think about disabilities. Moving on from the medical model onto the social model. In other words, we're now abstracting from the barriers within the individual to focus on the barriers within the environment. It's not the individual that is disabled, it's the environment that is inaccessible. If a while back, when seeing somebody with a physical disability being unable to access a building only accessible through stairs or moving, it's a pity they cannot access because they cannot walk. Now we think it's a pity they cannot access because there's no ramp there. And someday we're going to look back at our school system and ask ourselves, why did we have two-timer tests? Why did we think that memorizing notion was useful rather than understanding them and combining them creatively? Why did we shape school in the way we did? To whose benefit was it designed for? And what did it teach to our children? So now I want to share with you a metaphor that one of my previous advisors, my Schnaps, is also dyslexic, came up with. He's a physicist and introduced an engine. If you know me, you know I don't know much about engines. So I'm going to use something else. A neuron. A neuron is composed by three main parts. The soma, the body of the cell, the dendrites, which are small arms that capture and carry the signal, and the axon, a longer and thicker arm that sends information along to the next cell. So when a nearby neuron fires, the dendrites catch the signal that passes then along the body and the axon and get transmitted to the next neuron. This process is electrochemical in nature, and it's called an action potential. But what do I mean by electrochemical? When a neuron is at rest, we have a difference in the electrical charges between the cytosol, the fluid within the cell, and the extracellular fluid, the fluid in which the neurons and the brain flow into. To fire and reach an action potential, a neuron needs to temporarily invert these charges. And much like a neuron in our society, when everything is the same, we have a resting state. And it's only when we see diversity as a resource and we focus on the positives among the negatives that we reach an action potential. Of course, we cannot be blind to the obvious challenges that our societal organization poses. The school and healthcare system won't reform just because we ask for it. Yet, adopting this mindset is the first step we can take into achieving our action potential. That's why I'm here today, despite it's quite frankly terrifying. I want to use my position in academia to serve my community, and I want my research to be in line with the changes that need to happen in our school system and our society to become truly inclusive and egalitarian. An example by which I've been trying to do this is that I took tested impossible figure recognition skills of dyslexia. And although I was very green when I did this study, and my sample size turned out to be very small, and so it's likely to remain unpublished, it gave me the experience that I have today to polish up my research design, combine with neuroimaging techniques, and bring it back again for my doctoral research my research and my values is that I'm building a survey-based study, trying to piece together all the pieces of information that I shared with you earlier on about being neurodiverse, mental health, and academic achievement, trying to identify the risk and the protective factors that influence this relationship. And of course, this is not to say that all research that investigates the neural correlates and the genetics and environmental factors that influence reading is bad. These tools are valuable into understanding the human mind, and I use them in my research too. I simply believe that they should not be used to fix dyslexia, but rather to complement it. So I want to use the few more minutes that I have on the stage to urge my colleagues to think about the way that the research influences the way we think about dyslexia. Reach out to community leaders in your location and open up a discussion with them about what are the research questions that they would like to get answers for. And finally, I want to send a message to my community, and hopefully it's going to extend to other neighboring communities. Be patient, because these kind of changes take time, and they may not affect you directly or substantially. Do what you can to challenge the prejudice that you're facing. Explain why you need accommodations in the classroom. Explain why you're late and how that relates to the way your mind works. When you're asked to do something that is not in your skill set, ask why, and is there another way to get there? Think about all the contributions that you bring to society, and most importantly, surround yourself with people who see value in you, who appreciate you, and make you feel like a hero. Firing in a neuronal circuit, reaching your action potential.